Welcome back, friends. In this video, we're going to continue. Remember in the last video, we added this basic ability to add a record. I've added some other ones here, Miriam Shaw, for example, or Tom Adamski, whatever it happens to be. Remember the employee ID is automatically generated. We stick in the first name, the last name, and when we do that now, the sales table automatically gets record added to it through the trigger that we created in the last lesson. Of course, it would be nice if we could now click on delete and remove those records also, you see? So just as we can add a record to the employees table and then cause the sales table to get records as a result of the trigger, it should also be possible to reverse that operation. So when you remove something from the employees table, that should also be removed as an example from the sales table. So the opposite of what we did in the previous video. And to accomplish this, take a look. I'm going to type the following. Over here I will say as follows. I'm going to use again my dbase, but I already have that context set down below in the status bar. You can see that. So I'm going to type that. Instead, I'm just going to type this. I will say alter and then table, sales table. And I'm going to add a constraint, a foreign key constraint. This will make a link between the employees table and the sales table. So that, for example, when the employees table is modified by the removal of a record, that modification is properly communicated to the sales table and the records with that ID are also removed. So alter table, sales table, and then you will say this, add constraint. That's the reason for having this code. We're going to add a constraint. I'm going to call it here FK underscore and then empid. That means foreign key. And then you specify at the next stage foreign key like this, and then type empid. And you will see once we run this, we'll take a look on the left side, you'll see more clearly what this is. So for our purposes, remember it says we're altering the sales table and we're adding a constraint. The name of it is fk underscore empid, so foreign key. That's what the fk essentially represents. And then it says empid, so that's good. Remember when we made the sales table and the employees table, they both have an employee ID, correct? Think back to that. Now, take a look at the next stage here. I will say references, employees table, empid. So these two lines make the connection essentially, right? They're establishing a constraint between the sales table and the employees table. So when an action is performed in the employees table, that action is then correctly communicated to the sales table. And here you can do a variety of things, but a thing that you can do is this one. You can type on delete and then cascade. So what this is going to accomplish is the following. When you delete a record from the employees table, the records with that ID will also be deleted from the sales table. That's what it means cascade. Communicate that change. So let's add this. So just highlight that code, hit execute, and it says command completed successfully. So let's take a look at what we've created here. First of all, expand the employees table on the left side, and then go over to keys, and all you see is the PK, right? The primary key. That's it. That's the employees table. Nothing really different. And now go down and find the sales table. Where's that? Expand that node and expand the keys folder. And that looks as shown. So you want to right click and refresh. And notice that now it says FK and then underscore empid, and it's a little silver key. So make sure you've got a little silver key under the keys folder in the sales table. So now we have a relationship between the two. All right, and the question is, when I remove a record now from the employees table, will that be properly communicated to the sales table? So to reassure ourselves, take a look. I'm going to say select star from and then sales table. Let's see what is in here. So I'm going to scroll down and I've got, for example, on the bottom here, records with an ID of 1008, as you see down below. Okay. So remember, the question is, when I now remove employee with ID 1008 from the employees table, will the corresponding records in the sales table also be removed? So we're going to observe the result. Take a look. Go over to the web page. In your case, you may first have to enter this record, right? Generate the values and then try to delete it. I already have it. I entered it previously. So I'm going to say hit delete. I remember the promise. Keep that in mind. So I'm going to hit delete. And let's take a look. So I've deleted that record, right? It's not visible here anymore. Scroll through them with the paging, and you don't see them anymore anywhere, correct? I'm going to close this, and we're going to test. So to test means select the records from the sales table and make sure anything below is gone. It either is or it isn't, correct? So hit execute. Go to the bottom, and the only thing that remains down on the bottom is 1007. 1008 has been removed. So this confirms that we have a good relationship established between the employees table and the sales table. In other words, when you remove a record from the employees table, it's also those records are removed. Well, the records with that employee ID are removed, as you can see, from the sales table. And that is done by typing code similar to this one. So you alter the table, you add a constraint, you give it some name. In this particular case, you can call it a foreign key. So emp ID, remember, is the name of a field. And remember that this emp ID is a field that is shared essentially between the employees table and the other table, meaning the sales table. And notice at the next stage it says references, employees table emp ID, correct? And then lastly, on delete cascade. So when you delete an ID from the employees table, that's cascaded, in other words, propagated or communicated correctly to the sales table too. And those records are removed. Let's test one more time here. I'm going to insert a new record. All right, so make up a name here. Maria Smith, hit insert. Click on 5. So 1009 is her ID. So first, let's take a look inside the sales table. You've got to keep checking. Sometimes little things can happen. Scroll to the bottom, and we've got that on the bottom, you see? So lastly, let's delete one more time. You see the employee ID 1009. It's working for addition of records. All right, make sure that in the details view here you have it selected, and then hit delete. Go back into the table one more time. Scroll to the bottom, and notice the 1009 records are gone. So that is working as expected, in other words. And that is it for this one. I'll see you next one.